Hey, welcome to Film Fanatics. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
And I'm Joe.
This week, the pizza-loving Ninja Turtles return in Out of the Shadows. Andy Samberg heads up the mockumentary Popstar. Jane Austen material turns comedic in Love and Friendship. And Colin Farrell wants to be the Lobster. First up, we're going to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Out of the Shadows. And that's going to be with Joe.
Of course it is.
A little under the weather, so we may not get as ranting as we got for the first one.
I kind of gave up before this movie came out. Like, a lot of people were just kind of talking to me about, what this movie's for and who it's for. And anyway, the Turtles are back. And, of course, we have Megan Fox returning again as April O'Neil, who, to my great surprise, is actually doing a little journalism this time. Is it particularly great? No. But it's a step in the right direction. So, good for her.
I mean, she did probably more journalism in the first one than she did this time around.
But the thing is this, Justin. In the first movie, her journalism was stupid. Okay? It was purely stupid because she couldn't back up.
Joe didn't like the photography parts.
Well, this is the thing. I won't get too far off this, but the difference is this. At least this time, she's basing some of her, discoveries on facts or leads. Whereas instead of just going up to Whoopi Goldberg and saying, "Oh, believe me because I said so."
Mm-hmm.
Like,
no Whoopi this time.
Unfortunately. But, so like I said, it's small, but, I'll give them that. And, of course, because of new threats, they have no choice to come out of the shadows this time. See what they did there? Ninjas. Coming out of the shadows. Yeah. Believe me, they bring it up. This is because Shredder, who, honestly, I forgot even survived the last movie, to show how much I retained that last one, has joined forces with another famous Turtles villain, the mad scientist Baxter Stockman, who is Tyler Perry, I believe?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which,
it's Tyler Perry, all right.
Along with the well-known henchmen Bebop and Rocksteady take over the world, but the Turtles must also confront an even greater nemesis. There's another villain, the notorious Krang, who's sort of the big bad. So, if you can't tell from that synopsis already, basically, all the major bad guys we've always wanted to see on the big screen are crammed into this movie. On a basic level, somebody is listening to the fans. Now, this movie wastes no time throwing you headfirst into this plot connecting all these classic villains. Like, there's literally almost no build-up. Like, oh, this person's here, he's working for him, he's connected. So, there's no suspense at all. It's just like, okay, we're completely sold on this. So, you don't really have enough time to really get sucked into it. You just kind of see everything there. And the Turtles, once again, are, I guess, the best part of the movie, but they are limited by some pandering, darkly lit, choppily edited, product placement filled, and slightly sexist musings of a producer known as Michael Bay, and he blatantly makes his presence known this time to rub it in our faces. And if you see the movie,
I don't know what you mean.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, and that made me mad. Not a good first impression. Kids will probably be satisfied by the humor and action. I may have if I were 9 years old. I'm not entirely sure about that, though. This movie is just too overly crammed. I guess it's a little better than the first film in the fact that it doesn't dance around things that people like, but I wish they would have saved 1 or 2 or 3 villains for the plot of maybe another movie, because it makes the same mistake a lot of superhero films make by cramming too many classic things into one movie, and it's just a mess.
What about Casey Jones?
That is the question.
Stephen Amell.
I'm more of an Elias Koteas fan, but
as you rightfully should be.
It wasn't as blasphemous to me as Baxter Stockman, who was always like one of my favorite villains, and I don't know. I found Casey Jones to just be completely mediocre.
Okay.
Was he horrible? I didn't think so, but yeah, he's nowhere near as awesome as he could have been.
Okay.
And that's just how I feel about the whole movie. Like, I literally gave up watching it. Like, I just had no enthusiasm. It was very.
Well, I suppose that's better than hating it, like the first one. I mean, you could barely get through that without.
Well, like I said,
the screen.
I knew what I was going into this time. I knew the expectations. I know Bay. I know what he's going to do. And I know what it's pandering to. And like I said, if people like the first one, they'll probably like this one, because there were a lot of defenders of the first one, and I'm willing to.
Some, yeah,
there are.
I met a few, and I'm willing to to at least accept their opinion for whatever. But I mean, to me, I just think the Turtles deserve better than this.
Okay.
So what do you guys think?
I mean, I think these movies are fine. I can't say they're particularly good. Like, it's not something I really ever want to see again. Mm-hmm. But as a non-Turtles devotee, I don't have an attachment to hating the first one, like I think a lot of people did, Joe, yourself included.
I did really hate the first one.
You did, and I didn't mind it. I thought it was fine. But that's about the best I can say about really either of these films. I think they're okay. This one, I think, did a few things differently from the first one. I actually thought the Michael Bay stuff was about the same in both.
Yeah.
I mean, it's evident that he has his hands all over it. But I did like that it was less sexed up for the children this time. I think I don't know who exactly they thought the audience was going to be for the first one, but regardless, it got a PG-13 rating, and I would say the average age of somebody watching it was like 8.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of 3 and 4-year-olds in these movies, and there is in the second one, too. So, I think I can't say they, doubted Megan Fox up, but they didn't make such a statement about how much Mikey wants to bang her. These are jokes from the first one that I think were super inappropriate.
Yeah.
The violence, though, is about the same. I think it's still incredibly violent for small children, which is why the rating makes sense, but no one cares, so okay. Tyler Perry was not good.
Yeah.
I think he was very over the top. I mean, I understand it's a Turtles movie, so you probably are expected.
Well, this is the thing. The version of the character he's playing is actually the traditional comic book version, which is actually supposed to be a more refined character.
Oh, okay.
He's not quite as over the top as like the 80s cartoon made him out to be.
Well, he's pretty over the top here.
That's what they're going for.
Yes. I also thought Laura Linney was
wasted.
Just out of place.
That too.
She was
this is a almost exclusively dramatic actress.
Yeah.
And now we're having her deal with Turtles and
hey,
But
isn't everybody in a franchise movie these days? Just about.
True, but I think there's a slightly different attack mode when you're, let's say, Robert Redford going up against, S.H.I.E.L.D. and real live actors doing actory things than Turtles coming out of the sewer.
There was motion capture. There's somebody there.
I know, but I
not the same thing.
I think it's not the same thing. I think we can agree with that. I thought in general it was about the same as the first one.
That's probably correct.
I didn't really think it did anything that great. I thought Bebop and What's His Face were okay. I understand. I guess they're big comic relief characters in the cartoons.
Actually, they were pretty much the same. Which
they were okay.
But this is the thing. For me, I never liked those guys, even as a kid. So they meant nothing.
I don't think I would have either.
Well, they're bumbling.
I feel like some of the Turtles are their own comic relief.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. There was a lot more comic relief in the show, and there's just so many versions and different ways you can interpret them. But typically, they were always the bumbling sidekicks of the bad guy, and I never liked them.
Yeah.
I never did.
I can see why. I think I would have been the same had I watched the original show.
This is arguably one of the saddest cases of a movie cash grab I've ever seen. The first one, I guess the reboot we're talking, just to
the
clarify.
First Bay edition.
Yes.
Bay Turtles, it's fine.
Yeah. I could at least respect it as a creative entity. Like, it wasn't the cartoon I grew up with, but it was at least its own thing, and it knew what it was. Out of the Shadows feels like 3 different writers wrote 3 different stories, and nobody on the production side of things knew what to do with those 3 stories, so they basically hacked up all 3 stories and crammed it into one movie. One is the Turtles having a crisis with their exposure and identity. One is Shredder returns as per usual in the Turtles fair.
Of course.
And the other is let's finally get Krang in there.
Yeah.
And all it ends up is this big jumbled mess that jumps from storyline to storyline with little leeway in between.
Yeah, it's definitely more scattered than the first one. That's true.
Yeah. The visual effects I thought this time were a huge downgrade from the first one. Like, the first one was pretty sharp in its CGI. This time, there were scenes that were definitely together, but then we'll get to like the final action sequence, and it looks like a bad boss battle from a 2006 video game. Tyler Perry once again does a really bad job. I guess we'll always have Gone Girl, but
that's what I'm saying. Like, if he pulled off a performance, that's more like Baxter Stockman, the version they're going for, by casting a black man. That version is the more serious, darker.
Why he chose to do dorky, evil Neil deGrasse Tyson, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was weird.
I mean, that's like that's the main point of like casting him would be that, that version.
But strangely enough, the one thing I was expecting to be this movie's saving grace, which I was hoping was going to be Stephen Amell as Casey Jones, they try to make him more like realistic.
I hated that.
And it doesn't make any sense.
Look, Casey Jones is, like the Turtles themselves, they are a parody of comic books. He is a vigilante, hockey-themed guy. That's his thing.
I got the hockey.
Let's just, the whole, like, he was never a cop,
Yeah,
never
the weird cop thing was just
okay.
dumb.
He was just a young guy, became a vigilante because he was inspired by the Turtles. That's simple, cut and dry. You didn't have to make it overly complicated with his backstory. Like, Casey Jones is cool. He's Casey Jones. You don't need to do anything to him.
Well, did you guys notice, though, speaking of the Casey Jones plot, like, when he gets introduced at first to April,
Yep.
there's a good 5 or 6 minutes where we don't even see the Turtles.
Yeah.
They eventually show up
Yep.
in that scene, but the lead up to that scene, and then the other scene, and then that scene where he's, Casey Jones is like fending off the people. Then the Turtles finally show up. Like, I just thought kids would be bored with that.
But other fans that are older would love to see Casey Jones. See,
Okay.
that's this movie's just trying to please everybody.
That's
but
the biggest issue.
It's just so unfocused, though. That's the big issue.
Kids don't know about Casey Jones.
They might, but I mean, he is in the
I
cartoons.
mean, it's pretty synonymous. If you know the Turtles, you know Casey Jones.
Yeah, they'll know him. But I'll be honest, I don't think that the kids would like Casey Jones as much as the Turtles.
Well, of course not.
Like, Casey Jones is one of those characters I think that as people get older, they appreciate him more. Like, now he might be one of the most popular characters in the Turtle franchise. But did you realize that when you were a kid? Maybe not.
Okay.
It's kind of funny how that works, but
That's fair. And I mean, you're definitely right. This movie is trying to do fan service, but here's the thing.
It's all fan
If it's not refined, it's kind of a backhanded compliment to fans.
exactly. I mean, you can definitely tell they're trying, which is like, I was conscious of that going through. Like, okay, they're here. This is how they are. I can't really complain about that, but is it as smooth? Is it as well done as it could have been? No, definitely not. But, I can't say that it was like the worst thing ever. I mean, they didn't ruin Bebop and Rocksteady for me.
Well, you never liked them.
True, but but literally, that's how they are. So I can't imagine anybody would get upset about them.
Justin, you like those characters?
Personally found them annoying, but I mean,
That's
Okay.
how
I
they
can't
are.
blame water for being wet. So,
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
There. Well, Joe, a little higher than the first one, or about the same?
From what I remember, I'm gonna give this one slightly higher to C-.
Okay. Yeah, I believe the first one for me was a C+. I leave this one with a C.
huge downgrade for me, gentlemen. D+.
Wow.
Okay. I don't think that's that huge. What was the first one? A C?
C+.
Oh, a C+?
Wow.
Okay, well, up next we have Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping. And in this film, the guys that make up the real-life novelty music act The Lonely Island, which is Andy Samberg, Akiva Schaffer, and Jorma Taccone, bring us this mockumentary about a former boy band star named Connor For Real, played by Samberg, and his fall from public favor. His attempts to get back on top and boost sales of his second solo record do not go over well, and putting his boy band past with the Style Boys behind him seem like a lost cause as well. All three Lonely Island members wrote the film and have starring roles, and Schaffer and Taccone direct, and the cast includes Tim Meadows as Connor's manager, Sarah Silverman as his publicist, and more than 24 cameos littered throughout. Now, you guys, Popstar could have been a one-joke movie meant for, one of their famous digital shorts on Saturday Night Live, but I think the script's brilliant satire, the cast's willingness to go all out on these roles, the cleverness of the jokes, and honestly a fairly compelling narrative all raise the movie up to what will hopefully end up cementing some sort of a cult status for it long after it leaves theaters, which, judging by the opening numbers, will probably be
Sooner rather than later.
yeah, in the imminent future. Unfortunately, it really didn't do very well, which I guess they were kind of expecting it, just because it does seem so niche. But, obviously Sandberg's star has risen lately with Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and,
Yeah.
I mean,
Lonely Island's pretty big,
They are, but on a cult level,
This is
I
true.
would say. I mean, I would say most people know a couple of the real big hits. I'm on a Boat's probably the only title I can mention on this show.
Safely, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but one thing I really liked is we lamented Zoolander 2 for having so many gratuitous cameos a few months ago. Here you really do get a who's who of musicians playing themselves, and also famous actors and comedians playing various other roles, yet they're all welcome and fun, at least in my opinion. It may be because the documentary style makes them make a lot more sense than in Zoolander. Is it maybe because the film gives them something fun to do instead of just showing up?
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of those things, plus the fact that over the years these guys have really made a lot of relationships in the industry. So there's some heavy hitters here. I think it would be best if we sort of didn't reveal who, but I mean, there's a lot of really high-profile people in this movie. I don't think every joke or even scene hits necessarily, but I think the satire is spot on. The commentary about fleeting success and the media is just as well done as that. Did you guys like it?
Well, you know what, Dan? What do you think? Do you think I liked it?
I think you probably did like it.
I did.
I know you're a Sandberg fan as well.
Well, okay.
We both watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I do like Brooklyn Nine-Nine because of... God, what's the captain's name?
Terry Holt, Andre Braugher.
I love that guy.
Yeah, sure.
From his glory days.
Right, yeah. Very good.
But, I like Sandberg, and I've always liked The Lonely Island.
Me too.
Actually, after
very clever
seeing this film, I went back and watched a bunch of the videos and was laughing. And I guess I can't mention any of them, but, some of the early stuff's pretty...
Yes.
Pretty hilarious. But,
yeah.
But, I agree. I feel like I was kind of worried that would just be the movie, like a series of just those kind of things. And they do bring that style of music in, but it's the same level you expect. It's usually pretty funny and catchy.
Yeah. So, and the songs they wrote for the film are very funny.
No, I like the song. I was actually thinking, like, if there is a soundtrack available, I'll get it.
There is.
Like, I really liked it a lot, and I definitely want to listen to it again. But I think the thing that surprised me, though, was that, like you said, the satire is really good. And I've heard some people compare this to, like, sort of the this is Spinal Tap with a pop.
I thought of that during the film. Justin is shaking his head.
Well,
I mean, if that's the truth, that's an insult to This Is Spinal Tap.
All right. Well, before you go, Justin, I just want to say that I thought a lot of it worked. The thing that surprised me the most, though, is that I agree. I thought that the drama was pretty believable. For I thought he was a decent enough actor to pull that off.
Yeah.
For the slightly more serious nature of it. I do agree, not every single scene was hilarious.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I thought it was pretty funny and smart and enjoyable.
I mean, even towards the end, when he's talking to them about, hey, just because I'm, going off and doing my solo thing doesn't mean we're not still a band. I mean, obviously that probably rings true for their relationship. Sandberg's a huge star now.
Yeah.
But he's still a Lonely Islander.
Oh, yeah.
And,
it was echoing their stuff, too.
Yeah, I thought that was I don't know if clever's the word, but it was certainly ringing true.
For the most part, it worked for me.
Yeah. Justin doesn't seem to agree.
And now for something slightly more negative. Mm-hmm. Well, I used to really like The Lonely Island.
Oh.
I was a big fan of their songs. They were really catchy. This is such a colossal downgrade for them for me.
Wow.
I think it's better. Wow.
I'm surprised that the band that became a huge hit through SNL put this out, and most of their songs are frighteningly dated and even worse, really forgettable.
They kind of make fun of that.
And even more so, they're very few and far between. Like you'll get a song maybe once every 20 minutes or so, at best.
Not necessarily, because you have then concert scenes where you'll see 3 or 4 songs right in a row.
Mm-hmm. Of sorts, but they're few and very far between. Alongside that, we have a story that wants to be satirical. In some ways it is, in others it's excruciatingly late to the party. Sandberg is beyond unlikable throughout I want to say the first 2/3 of the movie.
What?
And honestly,
that's the point. That's what they're poking fun at, like the Bieber-esque or
I get it. It's a Bieber parody, but here's the thing, though. You still have to give us some sort of reason to want to get behind him, or at least understand why these people were so popular. Like, give us some sort of basis in terms of why they would have taken off. Well, I never bought it for a second.
I think you're supposed to kind of use that compared to a lot of bands in similar situations.
Okay, but let's take it back to the This Is Spinal Tap thing.
Yeah.
I could see why This Is Spinal Tap I could see why Spinal Tap could have gotten popular for those for those songs.
Because you prefer those songs.
Right. I mean, let's think about some of the hot hits of the day. You know, All About the Bass. What's the one you hate? Boom Clap. I mean, these are big hit songs, and the point of this movie is
making fun of them.
Poking fun at why would this Mona Lisa Stinks song be a big hit?
But it
would be.
Because that's...
I'm not sure if I agree with that.
You know?
It's not... Dude, you know some of the songs out there are pretty limited.
Oh, no. There are some bad songs out there, but I think there is a cap.
Yeah, that's where pop music
But that
is
is subjective,
tricky.
and I'll let
Yeah,
That's
sorry, you know, when you have a song like "Watch Me Whip, Watch Me Nay Nay" be a huge hit, or "What Does the Fox Say?"
Jeez,
I'm sorry. I think the song about, you know, I'm not gay and
I'm a bee. I mean,
yeah,
these are
like,
horrible songs.
Humble. I mean,
but they were big hits.
I think these could be
legitimate
hits, and that's the point. That's the joke.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure, but
Okay.
getting beside that point. Alongside that, it once again pulls the Zoolander 2, as you mentioned, with an endless assortment of cameos. I will admit they're better used, but I'll be honest, the best one is used ironically, and it's not used even remotely in a remotely effective way until the very, 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 very end of the movie.
I don't know about that.
I thought they were all used pretty well.
I thought it added some realism.
Whether
to
they
it,
were in the songs, you know, some people were doing the songs, some people were doing
like,
the talking head interview parts.
And like, for instance, when a certain rapper was saying how like they changed his life, and he could just like, I mean, I loved that.
Which I didn't know how to feel about, but
that was great. I mean, I think that if these guys, you know, can poke fun of themselves, I think it says a lot about their character.
Mm-hmm.
You know, really.
Or somebody's paying them incredibly well, one of the two.
I'm pretty sure
I think the people in this movie have a good sense of humor about themselves, Justin.
And we do know that like certain people that show up at the end have worked with them before.
Yeah.
And so I mean, you know, like, you know.
That's
yeah,
fair.
I mean, I think everybody you expect to see in a Lonely Island movie is here.
They'll show up.
You know,
just about.
That's about as spoilery as
yeah.
I want to be with the cameos, but I mean, everybody you would expect makes an appearance.
And I don't think it's a downgrade, Justin. I think it's a natural evolution for some skits to film. It's classic SNL, and whether or not you like it, it makes sense as a progression to me.
Yeah, but it's more its path than Night at the Roxbury.
I never saw either movie.
Neither did I.
I'm willing to bargain you never saw It's Pat, Justin.
But it's pretty much universal.
Okay. Nobody saw that movie, including myself, so...
There you go.
You know...
I mean, would you rather I say...
I'd rather you compare movies you've seen, but... Point being...
I mean, I never saw Superstar, but that's probably the other go-to.
I don't know. I guess I do want to ask one last question there, Justin. Like,
please, fire away.
Did you really think he was that unlikable?
Yes.
Because I thought he was a believable person, and that's his arc.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of characters start off unlikable, and they grow.
Yeah, but they at least give you a reason to like them. Connor is just an all-around jerk for about the first hour and 20 minutes.
Hence the satire.
I actually saw this guy as a guy who really wanted to make good music and just was full of himself. Like a lot of people could get.
Well, I saw it as something in a similar vein, somebody that was full of himself, but because he was surrounded by yes men, which they touch upon.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, because he sold, you know, X amount of millions of albums, which they touch on.
Yeah.
Because he had a huge hit with the Donkey Roll song with his old band, which they touch. I mean, I think it's pretty clear why he is
the way he is.
Such a jerk.
Yeah.
But once again, watching his entire arc is painful because I have absolutely no reason to ever want to get behind him.
All right. Well, clearly it's a mixed result here. Joe, what's your grade?
I really liked it. I give it an A-.
I'm the same, A-. Can't wait.
I'll be honest, I was incredibly unimpressed, but I do have to admit I did laugh a couple times, and the ending is actually pretty funny. Okay. I live with a C-.
All right. Let's hear about love and friendship, Justin.
Hopefully there's more love and friendship this time around.
Set during the 1790s, Kate Beckinsale plays Lady Susan Vernon, a beautiful yet manipulative widow, going to live with her in-laws to evade the rumors circulating about her. While there, Susan takes up the opportunity to find a potential suitor, interfere in disastrous ways with her daughter's love life, and make friends in unlikely places. Chloe Sevigny, Xavier Samuel, and Stephen Fry have supporting roles. Now, this is a movie with plenty to admire for Austen lovers. Social satire, solid acting from pretty renowned cast, but what can it do for the people that aren't such big fans? And the answer to that question is actually quite a bit. And I think it is very much the benefit of director Whit Stillman, who adds almost a personality of his own to the flair. The satire bursts with a sort of crackling wit, and I think the way he finds humor in these like little labels that he puts on here and there really keep it moving throughout its 90-minute running time. And I think the other thing that comes along with that is he's not afraid to let Kate Beckinsale be a completely unlikable character at times. We see where she's coming from in spurts, but it also helps that we're open to the idea that we're not supposed to like her. And that helps us understand the supporting cast in that regard. My biggest issue with the movie, though, is it is a little bit set in its ways, and the ending does come a little abruptly. But I don't know. Where do you stand on this one, gentlemen?
Well, I'd like to hear how the main character worked for you, since, you could get behind her.
I was wondering that as well.
No,
one of your huge problems with Popstar was that he was so unlikable. I don't think Lady Susan is very likable.
I think throughout most of the movie, I was like, wow.
But she at least feels like a character, like a defined character, not like Connor for real, who's basically never jumping at. Why are we still talking about Popstar?
As a comparison.
Because it's a comparison.
We're wasting time.
No.
I disagree.
I completely disagree.
Justin, what
about to the disagreement?
What about this movie worked better that the other one didn't in that regard as a comparison?
Okay, I want you guys to know before we go any further, this is like comparing Amadeus to Wayne's World.
It's still basic
but
storytelling.
I think it makes sense.
I don't.
As the last one, you had the exact opposite opinion. I'm curious. I'm legitimately curious. Like, what worked better?
Because I agree, both characters are not likable.
Yeah,
but
you can get
it
behind
seemed like you got behind this one more.
Yeah.
Okay, again, you are comparing two entirely different entities. One is legitimately well written. One is basically an SNL sketch stretched in 90 minutes. The comparison is weak at best.
Okay, so because the script is more...
It's more together.
Okay.
Characters better defined. This is a completely stupid comparison.
Well, I didn't think so, but I really liked this movie because I'm an Austin fan, and that's all I'm going to say about it.
Yeah, you do like Austin.
Yeah, I think, it was actually a little bit darker than the rest of the stuff, and I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was surprisingly funny. It's definitely not... your stuffy type of period piece. I think it found a good balance.
Well, that's usually the way it is.
I don't know. I mean, I liked Far From the Mad and Cry. There's some period pieces I like that are straight drama.
What I mean
There's
is,
an art to it.
Like by Austin, though, how much experience do you have? Because this is typically how his stuff is.
Just the majors. I mean, your Sense and Sensibilities and your Pride and Prejudices. But...
You taught me then.
Zombies. There you go. It's the year of Austin.
You've never seen regular Pride and Prejudice?
Any
of them?
I've seen the Keira Knightley one. Okay. I have not seen Sense and Sensibility.
Okay.
There's also a Kenneth Branagh version as well.
Yes.
That's usually...
This is very popular.
Yeah, the miniseries I never saw.
Point being, Joe, that I think that the style that, what's his name, Stillman, I think will appeal more to a mass audience... And as well, the Downton Abbey crowd.
I think it's because there's just so much plot and there's so many conversations constantly going. It would be hard to get bored because it's a constantly moving plot.
Yeah.
All the time. I mean, and I think Lady Susan is a very interesting character because, you are kind of frustrated and angered by her and like, wow, she's terrible. But as things move along, you realize she did have motivations. And she is an Austin character, so it's all subversive to the whole society, as usual.
I thought Beckinsale was very good.
Yeah, actually, I'll be honest.
Unexpectedly, with the comic timing.
I don't really like her that much.
Yeah.
But, so I honestly did not know
I really
who
don't
was.
either, to be honest.
I was like, wait, this is who? And I had to look again. Oh, it's Kate Beckinsale. Because there was a whole other level of acting for her that I was just completely amazed by.
Savigny I typically don't care for.
I think she's fine, I mean,
yeah,
I like
her purpose.
I like a big nose and a big forehead.
That's fine.
We all know this.
Looks wise aside, I was a fan of Big Love. She was the worst one on it. I just don't really think she's that good of an actress. She does okay here.
I think she's fine.
I don't think she really added anything to the material.
She's literally someone just for Susan to talk to.
Yes, but they could have gotten somebody, I don't know, a little bit better to play off of, maybe.
I don't know. I thought she was fine.
All right. Well, Joe, what would you give Love and Friendship?
It was a near perfect movie if it hadn't been a little slow at the beginning. It's an A for me.
Wow. All right. Well, B+ for me.
A-.
All right. Well, finally we have The Lobster, and Joe, you're going to tell us about that.
Lobster. Well, how about this synopsis? Now, according to a certain source, The Lobster is a romantic science fiction black comedy film. How do you guys feel about that little mouthful?
I'd say it's applicable.
Yeah, I think it applies.
Certainly covers a lot of ground, I think. Now, it's set in this dystopian world. It's known simply as The City. Kind of reminds me of some of those early YA dystopias, but it's for adults. The City. And basically, in this society, singles, that is, people without significant others, are given 45 days to find a romantic partner, or otherwise they will be turned into animals. That's where the weird sci-fi stuff kind of comes into. And Colin Farrell is one such individual who is staying at a hotel where this coupling is supposed to take place. This is another one of those situations where the term dark comedy is tossed around, and I figure I'm going to bring it up again because right off the bat, I just realized that this movie is just so dark that it causes more laughs out of irony rather than humor for me. But that may be intentional. And I think the film fully embraces its identity as this quirky tale to become much more alive in its narrative. And I think it's very, I don't know, it had a lot of fluidity to the narrative, which I really enjoyed. It's definitely one of the most unique films I've seen in terms of narrative, though, in terms of concept, which is always a plus. With some relevant commentary, I think, on love and the lack thereof, and I'm glad that I saw it.
Well, I certainly think it borrows from a lot of also quirky directors. I mean, I think Charlie Kaufman's probably the main person here.
Steve Jones, too.
But I think there's some Wes Anderson thrown in.
Yeah, a lot of those quirks there.
Yeah. Steve Jobs, what?
No, Spike Jones.
Spike Jones.
Oh, Spike Jones,
He's
yeah.
Greek Spike Jones.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
True.
That's his new name.
Yeah. I think for people that like those movies, I think they will also enjoy The Lobster, because I think it's about as well done as some of the better ones of those people's filmographies. It's incredibly original, just the world and the expectations, and I do think it offers, like Joe said, a lot of commentary on relationships and being single and society's norms about it and this and that.
I like it, yeah.
I would say it's probably my favorite Rachel Weisz performance.
Wow, finally coming around on her.
I thought
wow.
she was great as the narrator, and then just as good as the on-screen acting part.
Yeah, I've always been a fan.
Do I normally not like her?
Well, every time I bring up that I like her, you're like, I'm not a fan. And I'm always like, I've always liked her.
I mean, she just doesn't seem to consistently show up. She's sort of like Daniel Day-Lewis in that regard.
I've never seen her.
Wait, Daniel Day-Lewis doesn't consistently show up?
He doesn't. He was gone for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then he came back for Gangs of New York. And then
I thought he meant his acting is sometimes he's good and sometimes he's not.
No,
okay.
He's only in a few movies, but he's always great.
Right.
Rachel Weisz is always good. I've never seen her give a terrible performance in anything.
I've seen some better than others.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a terrible
That's
performance.
why,
and I will admit I've never seen Constant Gardener, which is apparently one of her greats.
Yeah, really?
True story.
Oh, yeah. I thought Constant Gardener was decent. Really, even when she's in lesser movies,
You like her.
She's in a lot of my favorite movies,
Yeah, true.
She's good.
I thought the score was very good. Simple.
I like the narration,
but every
too.
time it came up, you knew something was about to happen, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I agree. I like the storybook narration, too.
Yeah.
I would say this is a definitely thinker's love story, or shall I say anti-love story.
Yeah.
But I think what definitely works in its favor is its originality. But what kind of worries me is, can this movie work on simply the surface level? And I think the short answer is not really, but it's so inviting in terms of taking it further than the surface level that you can almost forgive it for that. The social commentary in terms of what does it mean to be single in a world that demands companionship. There's a lot of parallels to be drawn, and I think the more it becomes evident of that, the more it comes to life. One of the other big issue I had from this one, and I kind of was able to get past it later on in the movie, is once we leave the initial hotel, it kind of loses its drive. Just for a little bit, but for a noticeable period of time.
Maybe a little.
Because it becomes a bit of a different story.
Well, it's also not nearly as... I don't want to keep throwing quirky around, but, I think there's a lot of things sort of in that area that really help define the oddness of the world, let's say.
Yeah.
And I agree. When it leaves that area, it is definitely... a little more
Meandering?
I mean, standard almost even. I mean, yeah, there's still odd characters, and we learn obviously more about them as we go, which, I can't say it's boring, but it's definitely less original.
It's a different story.
Yeah, once they leave that arena.
I agree. The hotel is definitely the strongest atmosphere.
Yeah.
But I still thought it was a worthy experience. Like, the way they eventually brought it full circle and we started seeing how the dots can connect. Like, both general ecosystems have their issues. The single life is not necessarily the same, has problems. The constant need to strive for companionship also has a great deal of problems. And there's segregation on both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, I think it was definitely interesting
Yeah.
in that regard. And original.
Thought-provoking, I think.
Yeah.
Considerably.
Most of it.
Most of it.
Most of it. You guys are right. I mean, once they kind of go off, it got.
It's a little less special.
It did lose something. I agree. Yeah.
All right. Well, Joe, what's your grade?
I thought it was pretty good. I did with a B+.
All right. I'm right with you. B+.
You won't hear any argument from me.
All right. Well, that does it for the show. Joe, what's new on the Merlin channel?
I don't know. Independence Day soon.
Yes, Independence Day. Turtles.
Yep.
Turtles. Yeah,
No?
I'll probably. I have to kind of catch up with some things because the last couple group reviews haven't happened.
Oh, no.
Okay.
So I'll probably mention them a little bit more in podcast form or something.
All right. Very good. Well, we are always, of course, enjoying subscribers here on our channel. So if you haven't done so yet, go ahead and subscribe. You can also join us on Film Fanatics with an exclamation point on Facebook, or tweet us at Film Fanatics Pod. Also, we've got our monthly old classic shows that we would love to hear listeners' choices from. In June, we've got the Disney / Pixar CGI animated in honor of Finding Dory. And then for July, it's going to be 80s comedies in honor of the Ghostbusters reboot. So let us know if you have any thoughts about that. Otherwise, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you back here next time.